Should have saved my quotes for now. Joke? No, I don't think jokes don't seem like it's the right time for jokes. But how we doing? We're good? Got the mic? We're good? Okay. All right. Our next speaker takes on the rather daunting subject of knowledge. With knowledge, we have Troix Jackson.
Here's what I know. The Earth is round. Animals evolved from older, closer to reptilian animals, and those animals evolved from tiny single-celled organisms. 1% milk is boring. Here's what I've been taught. The farthest back we can trace our lineage is my great-grandparents. My great-grandfather was part of the first generation of newly freed African Americans in the Northeast, and my great-grandmother was German and Cherokee, part of the third generation of German immigrants to the US. They lived in northern New York, and they had 4 girls together. We're not sure of my great-grandfather's name, but my mother has been clinging to this faded photograph of my great-grandmother Mary from when she was a young woman. She unearths it from this thick, leaf-bound scrapbook and insists that she looks just like me or I look just like her because those cheekbones are unmistakable, and God, you've got her eyes. Mary died giving birth to my grandmother's youngest sister. Oops. It was pneumonia, we think, as it was during the winter, and people like us didn't trust hospitals yet. The Henrietta Lacks debacle hadn't happened, but the mix of races then was so intra-European that a woman like my great-grandmother wouldn't be treated but tested. My great-grandfather was left with 4 girls to raise. Oops. My great-grandfather was left with 4 girls to raise, which he couldn't do even if he tried, because laws and gendered stereotypes wouldn't allow a man to look after young girls. My grandmother and her sisters were split up into foster homes all over the state of New York and stayed in touch through letters until they were old enough to find work. Back then, the only jobs for Black women were nursing, prostitution, and the occasional jazz singer and actress. My Nana and her sisters lacked the Anglo-Saxon facial features and smooth as newly turned butter skin of the famous Black women of their time. The only roles they would be set in would be ones based on stereotype. A housemaid with purposefully uneducated dialogue and an apron on as a constant reminder of her role. Sex work, on the other hand, was completely out of the question. The women in my family have always been too proud for that. Ultimately, they moved to Brentwood on Long Island and became a few of the first Black certified nursing assistants to work at the brand new Pilgrim State Hospital. My mother was born in the early summer of 1954 and was just old enough to catch the tail end of the civil rights movement. 15 years old in 1969, she joined the Black Panther Party. At 17, she wore an Afro wig and threw her fists into the air. I was born when she was 42, but she insisted on raising me with the ideals that she had adopted during the movement. You've got 3 basic rights, she's always said, in the loud, without shouting voice that's the usual in our house. The right to sleep with who you want, the right to vote, and the right to walk the streets without being persecuted. 2 of those things you can't do until you move out of my house, but you can. My mom's forceful assertion of my worth, of the worth of people like me, has been what's given me confidence throughout my life. The confidence that anyone has is what's based on what they grew up around. It's the reason why natural hair is making a comeback. It's the reason why everyone wants a sports car and a nice house. It's the reason why no one wears Crocs with socks in public, but everyone does in private. It's what we grew up around. I was raised around a most likely bloated sense of self-respect, of pride in my heritage, and in the idea that my voice demanded to be heard just as much as anyone else's. I never had issues with my self-esteem because by the time I was old enough to tie my own shoes, I had grown out of caring what I actually looked like. My mom often said, while nursing post-pre-K paper cuts with Neosporin and tall mugs of chocolate milk, why care what bullies think? You're a genius and they aren't. You're pretty and they aren't. They won't graduate and you'll have your PhD someday. Don't let inconsequential people bother you. She never skimmed over words for me. It was her philosophy that if I didn't understand something, I would look it up, and I did. All my confidence has evolved from my roots. My great-grandmother was strong, and so were her daughters, and so were hers, and so my sister and I were sort of gifted our self-worth the moment we were born. But that's not what makes life easy. Because I coasted past prepubescent self-esteem issues, but a bad public image isn't something I could change. When you're Black and purely American, you have to learn to quietly accept things that no one needs to remind you. Your ancestors were probably slaves. Your grandparents or great-grandparents probably had to put up with segregated schools and businesses, and unless you're lucky and in the right place at the right time, you probably won't make it big. And that means lower social status. I was picked at, and still am, for living in an apartment, for not having a different outfit for every day of the month, for things out of my control. I learned to let myself down before setting my hopes too high. I quit ballet when I figured out how much a proper leotard cost. I rejected a private girls' school because the tuition was a 6-digit number. And I learned how to hide run-down sneakers under way too long for my very short legs jeans. I learned how to let go and how to want less if it meant having to deal with money. Here's what I don't know. I don't know how someone could eat peanut butter and jelly without milk, 1% or not. I don't know why someone would buy brand name socks when you can get a bag of them at Walmart, 10 pairs for $5. I don't know how someone can bully others or how that boosts their own self-esteem. And I don't know how people can complain about their data plans because there's free Wi-Fi in public places for a reason. And text send anyway, as long as you've got service. I don't know why I was given my life or why the people around me were given theirs. And I don't have the key to any universe outside of the one in my head, and I can't speak to the overall purpose of people. But here's what I do know. All that we have is our past, what and who has come before. Dan Brown said in his book Deception Point, sooner or later we've all got to let go of our past. I disagree. What I've lived through has made me the person I am today, standing here, delivering this. This isn't a rags to riches cliche like you're expecting from a girl like me, Black, poor, and with a public school education, because the family that I come from is successful, and it is rich in history and memories and love. It may not be glamorous to you, but I'm grateful for my past. Thank you.